December 10th, 1946. People who do not know Hindustani, that is Hindi, have no right to stay in India. This voice was not from the colonizer. It came from a member of our own constituent assembly. 1937. The first revolt against Hindi domination. 1946, 53, 56, 63. Protests turned into rebellion. 1965. Anti-Hindi Riots. 70 people died. 2025. After all this, still they are pushing it.
और देश की एक भाषा हो, इसी दृष्टि को ध्यान में रखते हुए हमारे पुरखों ने, हमारे स्वतंत्र सेनानियों ने राजभाषा की कल्पना की थी और राजभाषा के रूप में हिंदी को स्वीकार किया था.
If not followed, funds cut. Languages are not just words. It holds emotion, culture, history. It is the song of mother and identity. Every tweet, comment, debate, protest, and sacrifice is for that identity. And for the same identity, in 1918, Mahatma Gandhi launched the Hindi Prachar Sabha. But eventually, it became a chapter of anti-Hindi movements in Indian history books. Why there was so much hatred for Hindi from South soil? Who started the first protest against Gandhi's dream of making every Indian speak in Hindi? Let's understand the story, not just through protest and politics, but from very beginning. By the late 1700s and early 1800s, everything was going smooth. Agriculture, trade, textile, and forced taxation. India had become Britain's most profitable colony, a cash cow in the east. British hands on everything. Ships were leaving the ports overloaded and profits were skyrocketing. This made the British realize the need for expansion. Not just with laborers, something more. They needed a system that would do everything for Great Britain. Lawyers, clerks, collectors, accountants, drivers, all to run the administration cheaply. In Macaulay's own words, they want a class of people, Indian in blood and color, but English in opinions. In 1935, they brought in a system called the English Education Act. Not to enlighten Indian minds, it's to loot everything to the fullest. This officially ended the state support for India's traditional education systems, like Gurukulas and Madrasas. This marked the true beginning of mental colonization, where India's own languages were made to feel inferior, and English became the language of power, law, and success. For over 3 generations, English ruled not just Indian classrooms but also Indian minds. Words like language imposition, cultural imperialism, linguistic chauvinism, policy weaponization are the synonyms for the British education system. English grew exponentially, so did the resistance. Just when the colonial grip at its peaks, in 1918, Gandhi launched the Dakshina Bharat Hindi Prachar Sabha, a movement to spread Hindustani across non-speaking Hindi states. Gandhi believed if we must fight the British, let it be with one Indian language. Replaced English with Hindustani, a soft-spoken blend of Hindi and Urdu. He used it everywhere. Gandhi wanted every Indian, from the lawyer in Bombay to the farmer in Champaran, to hear the same message of freedom in the same voice. While Gandhi was speaking Hindustani everywhere, India was speaking in many tongues: Tamil, Telugu, Bengali, Malayalam, Marathi, Kannada, Oriya. In South and East India, the freedom movement had its own rhythm. Led by historical leaders, here they didn't need Hindustani to fight the British. While Gandhi's Hindustani aimed for unity, a bigger movement was already rising in South. Temple entry, anti-touchability, Brahminical dominance, caste discrimination. These were led by many, and Periyar was famous among them. (1925) E.V. Ramaswamy, also known as Periyar, walked away from the Indian National Congress. For him, British rule was only half the problem. The deeper disease was social inequality. He launched the self-respect movement, a movement for rationalism, equality, dignity, and non-Brahmin assertion. He challenged what Gandhi ignored and what Congress avoided. What is the use of kicking out the British if we still remain the slaves to caste and religion? In his eyes, Congress-led Swaraj was just a regime change. 1937. Indian National Congress defeats the Justice Party in the Madras presidency elections. And with this shift, something else happened. The fight for political freedom overtook the fight for social equality. C. Rajagopalachari, the new Chief Minister of Madras, believed in national integration through a unifying language. Under his leadership, a policy was introduced making Hindi compulsory in schools across the Madras presidency. Marai Malai Adigal, the father of pure Tamil movement, and Periyar, the social activist, called, "This is not unity, this is linguistic imperialism." Protests broke out, public meetings, rallies, flags, arrest. Madras presidency was rising. Thousands were jailed. Among them Talamuttu and Natarajan, two young students died in the prison. Their sacrifice became the first martyrdom in India's linguistic struggle. Today's Talamuttu Natarajan building in Chennai is the reminder of how far people will go to protect their language. By 1940, the pressure became too much. The British governor of Madras scrapped Hindi order. It was a victory. More importantly, it was a turning point. By the early 1940s, Periyar was not just fighting a policy. He was demanding a separate country for Dravidians, Dravida Nadu. It means self-rule in one's own language and culture. 1945. Independence was near. India's biggest question was not just about borders. It was about language. What would be the national language of free India? Would it reflect India's diversity or just the majority? That year, a sharp rift broke out within the Congress itself. Between Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and Purushottam Das Tandon. Tandon demanded a pure Hindi, but Gandhi wanted Hindustani. He said, "If we force purity, we divide the people." But it was too late. The middle ground was collapsing. Jinnah made his line clear. Urdu was the soul of Indian Muslims. Hindi or even Hindustani would not be accepted. That rejection birthed Pakistan. Down south, Periyar was also calling for separation. Not based on religion, based on language, culture and caste dignity. It's for the federation of Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and Kannada speakers. Periyar had resistance, but not political power. So while Jinnah movement led to partition, Periyar led to something else. A social revolution within India. One that would echo for next 100 years. December 10th, 1946. A full-scale debate in the Constituent Assembly. Those who do not know Hindustani have no right to stay in India. That line was not from a colonizer. It came from R.V. Dulekar, a member from the United Provinces. And it shook the assembly because independence was just months away and India was already splitting. Some members wanted everything in Hindi. The constitution, government records, even car number plates. They insisted that every clause be debated in Hindi. But South pushed back. Because for them, Hindi was not just a language, it was a symbol of cultural dominance. T.T. Krishnamachari from Madras stood up and warned, "We dislike English in the past, but we dislike forced Hindi even more. Push it too far and South may start asking for separation." 1950. India's constitution come into force and Article 343 quietly seals the deal. Hindi in Devanagari script becomes the official language of the Union. But English will continue for 15 years until 1965. And then comes Article 351, a constitutional promise that Hindi will be promoted but without harming other languages. 1952. In a small home in Madras, Potti Sriramalu begins a hunger strike. His demand a separate state for Telugu speakers. He goes on a hunger strike for 56 days and on December 15, 1952, he dies. Protests sweep across Andhra. And by 1953, Andhra state was born. The first state formed purely on linguistic identity. 1956, language mattered deeply. So India recognized its states on the basis of language. Tamil Nadu for Tamilians, Kerala for Malayalis, Karnataka for Kannadigas, Andhra for Telugus, Maharashtra for Marathi speakers. And just like that, language became identity, territory, emotion. Especially in the south, pride in one's mother tongue was not just cultural, it was political. 1963, a new bill, the Official Language Act, arrived. And C.N. Annadurai, leader of the DMK, saw through it. The word used was may, not shall, which means English may continue or maybe not. And Anna demanded clarity. Replace may with shall. Nehru only gave a verbal assurance, not a legal one. 1965. After Nehru's death, fear gripped the South. Would Hindi now become the India's only working language? That fear was made real when CM Bhaktavasalam enforced the three-language formula: Hindi, English, Tamil in all state schools. This led to the biggest anti-agitation. In Tiruchirappalli, a young man named Chinnaswamy set himself on fire. 70 plus people killed, thousands injured, trains burned. Streets turned into battlegrounds of identity. Annadurai and 3000 DMK members were arrested. January 25, 1965 became an unforgettable chapter in Madras state. The same man, T. Rajagopalachari, once ordered Hindi to be compulsory, now stood against it. He called it out as linguistic tyranny, coined the phrase English ever, Hindi never. The fire reached Delhi, two union ministers from Madras resigned. The centre had no choice but to respond. Finally, on December 11, 1965, Shastri addressed the nation on radio. English will continue. This finally settled the unrest. 1967. TMK won Madras elections. This added strongness for two-language policy, Tamil plus English. And from that day, no central party came in power and the state followed its own path. To prevent another 1965, Parliament passed an amendment. English would remain permanently for central use. This gave Tamil Nadu what it had always asked for, a legal guarantee. 1986. A new national education policy arrived. Again, it revived the three-language formula, mother tongue plus Hindi plus English. And once again, Tamil Nadu said no. In 1990s, UP CM Mulayam Singh Yadav sent a letter to Kerala CM E.K. Nayanar in Hindi. Nayanar read it and replied in Malayalam with no translation. Just a quiet message. If you expect me to understand your language, I expect the same for mine. To Indian leaders, pushing Hindi is not just history, it's blueprint behind today's cultural power struggles. Because the debates haven't ended, they have just changed the form. From tax distribution to celebrities fight, from political double standards to metro signage fights. Language still at the center of power, politics and pride. So now let's decode the present. Whether it's Sonu Nigam's controversial statement or a bank manager rude refusal to speak the local language.
I will not speak Kannada for
ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ನೀವು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಮಾಡಿ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ನೀವು ಹಿಂದಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ನಡ
I will never speak Kannada.
ಮಾತಾಡೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಓಹೋ ಸೂಪರ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಸೂಪರ್
The debate in India is far from over.
आप हिंदी बोलते हैं क्योंकि आपको हिंदी आता है, मुझे हिंदी बोलने को आप फोर्स कर रहे हैं क्योंकि आपको सिर्फ हिंदी आता है, राइट?
In the history of language imposition, rejection was expressed in different ways. Rallies, people protest, hunger strikes. But emotions are same. While there is resistance, some celebrity turned politician want to make a survival out of it. Like Pawan Kalyan.
హిందీ మేము గౌరవిస్తాం, దక్షిణాది భాషను కూడా మీరు గౌరవించండి, మేము కోరుకుంటున్నాం. అది కేవలం ఓట్లకే దక్షిణాది వారా, మిగతా వాటికి కాదా? ఆత్మగౌరవం లేదా మాకు? రోడ్ల మీదకి రావాలా మేము? దయచేసి మీరు అర్థం చేసుకోండి.
సంస్కృతాన్ని తిడతారు, హిందీని మీరు రుద్దుతున్నారు, సౌత్లో దక్షిణాదిని అంటారు. అన్ని దేశ భాషలే కదా. మన తమిళనాడులో తమిళ్ హిందీ రాకూడదు అంటుంటే నాకు అనిపించింది మనసులో ఒకటే, అప్పుడు తమిళ సినిమాల్ని హిందీలో డబ్ చేయకండి. డబ్బులేమో హిందీ నుంచి కావాలి, ఉత్తరప్రదేశ్ నుంచి డబ్బులు కావాలి, బీహార్ నుంచి డబ్బులు కావాలి, ఛత్తీస్గఢ్ నుంచి డబ్బులు కావాలి, కానీ హిందీ మాకు వద్దంటే అదే న్యాయం.
A deputy chief minister of Andhra Pradesh. He made a statement of why Tamil Nadu is making their films dubbed into Hindi for money, while they say Hindi can't be put in their state education policy. Logical but confusing, because South films are not forcing North to learn Tamil. They are simply offering their stories, and the audience by choice watching them in Hindi. That's business by choice, not policy, not pressure. Why always strong resistance from only Tamil Nadu? It should be equal like other South states which follow the three-language formula. 1937, Hindi was imposed without consent, 2 people died. 1946, 53, 56, 63, mass protest. Tens of people died and hundreds of people put in jail. 1965, protest shook the state, over 70 lives were lost because the wound was not as deep as Tamil Nadu's. For all political reasons, Northeast Indian states have historical exceptions. Why historical exception is an option for Tamil Nadu? This contradiction is not just cultural, it raises a bigger question. Is government promoting Hindi in a way the constitution is intended? Technically yes, but practically not. Let me explain. The constitution allows Hindi and English for central communication. But in recent years, especially under the current government, there has been a visible shift toward Hindi first behavior. Not by law, but by habit. Here is the pattern. Official websites and ministry portals often default to Hindi. Government circulars, memos, and social media posts are first released in Hindi. Translations sometimes come later. Cabinet ministers, including the prime ministers, mostly speak only in Hindi in parliament, even when addressing non-Hindi regions.
We need a clarity about who is going to bear the cost of it. Thank you, sir.
अध्यक्ष महोदय, पहली बात तो हर राज्य को there is a translation facility also.
It's difficult to understand. I know that you can speak English very well, and my question was also in English. Sir, please.
This creates an unspoken message. To access central power, understand Hindi. That's not what Article 343-351 intended. This is called behavioral imposition. India's constitution allows education to be concurrent subject, meaning both the center and the state share power. But originally, education was entirely under the state control, and language preference in schools was the state right. Just as language should not be imposed from the top, it should not be weaponized at the ground level either. Because when pride turns into aggression, the damage cuts both sides. Aggressive linguistic chauvinism, saying things like "you come here to beg, so learn Kannada." There are plenty of examples like this. If someone has lived among for 12 years, walked the same streets, shared the same air, smiled at the same shopkeepers, and yet did not speak your language, yes, that pain is valid. Maybe his busy, lonely life was never welcomed into your language with a smile. If they truly love your language, there is no need to live for 12 years, even if it is thousands of kilometers they learn. But here is where the lines start to blur. Understanding history is easy, but the drama in politics, that's where contradiction begin. DMK leader Stalin once said in a prayer that he would rather not allow Hindi into Tamil Nadu even if it means his party. Other side, Stalin's son Udayanidhi Stalin make a comment about eradication of Sanatana Dharma. Maybe they see India itself as an imposition. This behavior comes when you remember your party protested not only against Hindi but wanting to have separate nation. Politicians and parties are experts at turning causes into shields for political mileage. Whenever heat comes from the center, be it over corruption, political failures, or demand for transparency, the outreach quickly shifts toward issues like Hindi imposition, Sanatana eradication, or NEET injustice. It's not always for the people. That doesn't mean Tamil Nadu should accept forced Hindi, especially when it lacks global enrichment. It also doesn't mean those who want to learn Hindi should be ashamed of it. Here is the lived experience of Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman.
क्योंकि मैं ये ऐसे स्टेट से आ रही हूँ, भाई साहब आप उसके पक्ष में बैठे हो ना, आप जरूर पूछिए। मैं ऐसे स्टेट से आ रही हूँ जहाँ हिंदी पढ़ना गुनाह लगता है, इसीलिए बचपन से हिंदी पढ़ने का मुझे रोका गया।
Then comes the bigger national question. Is India really struggling to understand itself without a single Indian lingua franca? Personally, I don't think. What is your opinion? It's not just double standards from Tamil politicians, but from Delhi too. Take Amit Shah, one nation, one language remark. When the Home Minister of India speaks like this, people naturally fear. This adds to the strength of the lived experience of Kanimoli. Maybe Center believes that if India has one language, we will have the figures of US or China. But that's a flawed assumption. Growth comes from the strong governance. Look at the 2020 NEP. Grand promises on paper but weak in execution. And when Tamil Nadu refuses the three-language formula, it stopped funds. Tell me how many Tamil, Telugu or Kannada language institutions exist in Hindi-speaking states, especially for the countless migrants who move here in search of a better life. Saying that English is a colonial language and therefore not should be the link language is a flawed argument, especially when Hindi is extremely limited in technological aspects. In contrast, look at how language works in real life. Across South India, you will find lot of Marwadis. They run shops, they run business, and they also learn the local language. Not because it's forced, because it built trust. And when dignity is dismissed, you get strong replies. If the argument is Hindi should be the national language just because it's spoken by many, then by that logic, shouldn't the crow be our national bird instead of the peacock? If you turn the pages of history, you will see in 1935, English was introduced not to educate but to erase the Indian culture. And from the 1900 onwards, efforts made to introduce Hindi, this time in a name of self-rule. It wasn't as direct, but it was a softer, subtler attempt to erase regional cultures. Slowly through policy and pressure, the purpose remained the same: control through language. Center talks about unity, but the real purpose of Hindi promotion was already fulfilled on August 15, 1947. It is the day India achieved independence without the need of Hindi. So the question is, why is the center still holding on to this language agenda? It is still narrating a different version of the story. The answer is clear: to maintain political control. In reality, India's strength lies in unity in diversity. What's your take on this? Do you want Hindi to be India's national language? Do you think India doesn't have a central version of unity? Drop a comment below. If this video gave you something to think about, subscribe for more honest history-based narratives like this.